sometimes the computer breaks down on us. How many of you guys have actually felt God do something in your life that you wanted to shout from the mountaintops? I mean, you actually felt God do something in your heart that was so amazing that you wanted to shout about it. You wanted to say, hey, God, thank you for that. You know, that's why we're here. We're in this place, and the reason I preach sermons is because God's done something in my heart that I want to shout about. There's something I want to stand on a mountaintop, and I want to shout, and I want other people to know about the power of God and how He changes lives. So I'm so glad you're here in the room tonight, because I know that in each heart, in every one of our lives, there's something that needs to change. Could everybody agree with that? Put your phone down, okay, over there? Yeah, no more of that. Okay? There's something in each one of our hearts that God wants to change. And I beg you tonight, let God speak to that part of your heart. Okay? If you've been hanging out with us, you know that we've been talking this idea called Crave. And the whole idea is that God has made us with these powerful desires. These powerful desires in every man and in every woman. There are these desires inside of us. And you know what? God made us that way. In other words, it's not strange or weird for you to have desires, sexual desires in your heart. That's not strange. That's not weird. It's not gross. It's a gift from God to men and women. But like every other gift, what have we been learning the last 2 weeks? Every other gift it's got to be used God's way and in God's time. Because if you use God's gift in a way that God didn't mean it to be used, if you break the way that He made it, then there's consequences. And we all experience those consequences. We've all been through that. Everybody in the room knows exactly what I'm talking about. Because everybody in the room is broken. But God made us with these desires. And so we've got these desires coming up inside of us. We wonder, what do we do with these desires, God? And God says, I made you with those desires. But you want me more than you want the gift that I give you. You understand that? We talked about that last week, right? That we want God, we need God more than the gift He gave us. You could turn me down just a little bit, Will, back there. We need God more than the gift He gave us. But the gift is good, but it's got to be used God's way and in God's time. All right, so last week we talked about fog. You guys know last week? So much of the time we're in this fog of confusion where we think we're going up, but really we're going where? Yeah. And so when we listen to what movies tell us, when we listen to what people at school are telling us, when we hear all the different stuff people are telling us about sex, we're really in a fog. We think we're going the right direction, the normal direction, the direction that just feels right. But God says, no, you're actually heading straight for the ground. And when you hit the ground, it's like a plane. Man, going straight down, it's going to explode. There's going to be all kinds of wreckage of your life. So you don't want to be in this fog. You want to hear the voice of Jesus saying, follow me. I know a better way. And again, the better way is using sex God's way and God's time. And God made sex for one man and for one woman for one lifetime. For one man and for one woman for one lifetime. That's the way God made it. We're going to continue talking about that. Because it's an idea, guys, that every day somebody is lying to you about the way you should think about sex. Somebody is telling you a lie. And you believe it a lot of the time. You believe it all has to do with being the way you look. You believe it all has to do with what you're feeling. You think it all has to do with what you want. And all of those things are lies. It doesn't have to do with that stuff. Tonight, the message is called No Strings Attached. I don't know about you, but we live in a culture where people want to do certain things with no consequences. In other words, people like to eat whatever they want. You guys know that, right? How many of you guys want to eat whatever you want all the time? I mean, like every day you get up, you want to eat whatever you want. But how many of you know that when you eat whatever it is you want, there's bad consequences to that? How many of you guys know that's true? Yeah, you know, I'm not very disciplined in the food I eat. And so when I got here 2 years ago, I weighed 156 pounds. Okay, when I got here 2 years ago. But because I'm not very disciplined, and because I like food, and I like to eat whatever I want, what's happened to me in the last 2 years? I've gained some weight. Man, I'm putting some fat on. Why? Because there are consequences. There's strings attached to what I want to eat. You guys know that, right? So if I eat a hamburger, that has a direct impact on my life. Do you know that, right? And if I eat McDonald's hamburgers every single day, that has a direct impact on my liver and on my kidneys. A direct impact. What goes in my mouth directly impacts my body. There are strings attached. Some people like to buy stuff with no strings attached. In other words, we like the idea that we can buy something, and if we don't like it, or if it doesn't work the way we want, we can give it back. How many of you guys like that? How many of you guys love the idea that you can go buy something at Walmart, use it for 2 weeks, and if you don't like it, just take it back and they'll give you your money back? How many of you guys like that? We like that in our culture. Do you know that? We like in our culture to have no strings attached. You can get it, money back guarantee. You can take it, you can use it, you can do whatever you want. And if you don't like it, just give it back. We love that in our culture. And you know, the culture tells us we need to think the same way about sex. You know that, right? The culture tells us to view relationships with men or women as if there are no strings attached. Or another way we talk about it is friends with benefits. You guys seen that movie? You guys know what I'm talking about? See, we got this idea from movies and everybody else that, listen, there's no strings attached, there's nothing happening, it's no big deal, it's just physical. How many of you guys have heard that before? It's just physical. No strings attached, nothing connected, there's nothing going to happen, you're not going to feel a certain way. Man, it's just physical, so do it. It's no big deal. No strings attached. And that lie is one of the biggest lies that the world has ever come up with. In fact, it's not just the world. I think the devil came up with that lie. Because the devil knows very well that with everything you do, especially sex, there are always strings attached. Always. Always strings attached. Because sex, and hear me now, sex is not just physical. If you believe that your body is just a physical body, that there's nothing going on spiritually, that you don't have a soul, that there's no spirit, and that you can do whatever you want with your body, and there's no spiritual connection, you're wrong and you're believing a lie. There is a spiritual connection to everything physical you do. Do you know that? Everything physical you do has a spiritual connection. Everything. Do you know that when you exercise, that God says exercise is good for your body, but it's also good for your spirit? You guys know that? That there's a spiritual connection to exercising. It's not just a physical thing. How many of you guys know that you feel better emotionally when you exercise? How many of you have had that experience? You're like feeling like crap all the time, and then you're like, you know what? I'm going to go and exercise, and you're like, whoa, man, I feel better emotionally. It's because nothing you do is just physical. Nothing. God made you physical and spiritual. You guys hearing me? Every thought you have is both a physical thing and a spiritual thing. And every physical action you take is a physical thing and a spiritual thing. And it all has strings attached. All of it. Everything you do has strings attached. It's connected to something. And sex, maybe more than any other thing, has direct spiritual consequences, direct emotional consequences. And everything you do adds to that. I don't know, you guys ever been on a plane? Anybody ever been on a plane? You guys know what I'm talking about? Do you guys know that when you fly on a plane, if you have a really big baggage, you got to check that underneath the plane? How many of you guys know that? Okay? But you're allowed to take kind of a smaller bag. How many of you guys know that? You can take a smaller bag and you can put it either under the chair in front of you, or you can put it over your chair in the compartment above. Anybody ever seen that in the movies or on a plane? Okay, and that's really technical because it has to be a certain size to get into the compartment above, or a certain size to go under the chair. And if it doesn't, you can't take it on the plane. Okay? Do you know that everybody has baggage? Everybody has baggage. And some of our baggage is so big that it doesn't allow us to even move forward in life. Some of the emotional baggage from our physical choices is so big that when we walk onto a plane, or when we meet someone, or when we have decisions we have to make, people or things say to us, listen, too much baggage. You got too much emotional baggage, and it's stopping you from getting on the plane of your life. Do you know that? Every action you do physically gives baggage, if it's the wrong action, to your spirit, and then that impacts every other decision that you make. Every other decision you make. And so here tonight, we want to talk about that. Tonight we want to talk about, and if you come in with a lot of baggage, and that baggage is kind of in front of you all the time, and you can't seem to be making good decisions because of that baggage, the anger, the bitterness, the frustration, the hurt, the insecurities, and all the things that seem to be weighing on you and crushing you to the ground, if those things seem to be the things that always stop you from making good decisions, you're in a good place. Somebody say, this is a good place for that. This is a good place for people with baggage. This is a good place for that. Because we know somebody who can shrink the baggage. You know what I'm saying? See, we know somebody that looks at all the baggage of your life and says, you know what? I can shrink the baggage. I can take care of the baggage. I can make the baggage manageable. I can make the baggage where you can see past the baggage to the choices you need to make in life. How many of you guys want that? How many of you guys want to be in a place where the baggage is not blocking your eyesight from the good choices you need to make? Wouldn't that be awesome? So tonight, that's what we're going to talk about. Because everything you do physically has strings attached. There was this guy in the Bible named Paul. I've talked about Paul a lot. Paul was a killer. Paul was a killer who became a Christian. Just so you know. If anybody in the room tonight is thinking, I'm too bad for Jesus, I just want you to know, Paul was a killer, and Jesus saved him, changed him, and the reason you and I sit in this room is because Paul went all over the world telling people about Jesus. That's why we're in this room. You guys get what I'm saying? Paul was a missionary. Paul went and told people about Jesus, but he was a killer, and Jesus saved him. How about big baggage? Anybody think that's big baggage? How many of you guys know that if you ever did something like ending someone's life, that would be a weight on your shoulders that would make it very hard for you to make good decisions in the rest of your life? Would you guys believe that's true? Okay, so Paul writes a letter to a group of people, and this group of people have all kinds of baggage. They've got pride baggage. They've got money problems. They've got selfishness problems. And they have sexual baggage. Sexual baggage. And I want you to check out what he says in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. Check out what he says. He says, you say, and he's talking to his writers, he's talking to the people with all this baggage weighing him down, and he says, you say food was made for the stomach and stomach for the food. This is true. How many of you guys know that's a pretty simple thing? Food is made for the stomach, and the stomach is made for food. Somebody say, duh. Okay? But then check out. But see, this is a simple thing, right? Because everything God makes has a purpose, doesn't it? Everything God makes has a purpose. So God made a stomach to put food in the stomach. And God made food for food to go in the stomach. See, when God makes you, He makes you for a purpose. When God gives you the gift of sex and sexuality, He has a purpose. Check it out. Someday God will do away with both of them. Because someday you're going to be in heaven, you won't need to eat food. But you can't say, someone say can't say. But you can't say that our bodies are made for sexual immorality. Sexual immorality is sex outside of one man, one woman, forever. You guys know what I'm saying? Every other kind of sex is sexual immorality. Every kind. And He says you can't say your body was made for that. You can't say your body was made for that. They were made for the... Oh, that's a big deal. Wait a minute. Your body wasn't made for you? Say, my body wasn't made for me. My body wasn't made for my girlfriend. Somebody say, my body wasn't made for my girlfriend. My body wasn't made for my mama, or for my daddy, or for anybody else. My body was made for the... You see, that's a big deal. See, it's a big deal because your body was made by God, and it was made by God for God. He made your body for a purpose. Check it out. And the Lord cares about our bodies. It's not just physical. God gave you a body, and He cares about your body. He cares about what you eat. He cares about what you drink. He cares about whether you run. He cares about if you exercise or don't exercise. And He cares about how you use it sexually. He cares, and it matters to Him whether you use your body the way God made it. And everybody knows if you use your body the way God made it, any married person in this room can tell you, it's way better than when you use your body in a way God didn't mean it. You know, I got to tell you a story. One time I climbed up in a tree, and I jumped out of a tree. You guys know this story already. One time I climbed up in a tree about 20 feet high, and I jumped out of that tree. Anybody ever done that before? Climbed up something 20, 25 feet high and jumped off? Anybody ever done that before? How many of you guys know your body's not made for that? Anybody know that? How many of you know your body's not made to climb up a tree 25 feet in the air and go, hey, look at me, I'm going to jump off. Woo! How many of you guys know your body goes, no? And how many of you know that your back hurts, and your knee hurts, and your shoulder hurts, and you got dirt in your face? How many of you know your body wasn't made to jump out of a tree 25 feet in the air? How many of you know that? In the same way, your body was not made for sex outside of marriage. It just wasn't made for that. It was made to be an awesome gift between a man and a woman forever. It was made for that. And every other kind of sex is broken. Check out what it says next. And God will raise us from the dead. Someone say, raise us from the dead. Someday you're going to die, and when you die, your only hope is going to be in Jesus, who rose from the dead, and He's going to speak, and if you believe in Him, you're going to come alive. If you don't know Jesus, guess what? When you come back from the dead, you're not going to live forever with Jesus. See, that's what's at stake here. Do you guys get me? Your forever living with Jesus is at stake with how you use your body. Because it's not just physical. If you think you can blow off Jesus, or you can say, I love Jesus, and do whatever you want with your body, guess what? Eternity forever is at stake. Luckily, Jesus loves us so much, He's willing to forgive those who cry out and ask for help. But you do not get forgiven when you blow Jesus off. Somebody say, there's no forgiveness if you blow Jesus off. You guys get me? And someday Jesus is going to rise you and I from the dead. And we're going to have a new body. See, this is connected to that. Don't you realize your bodies, hear me now, your bodies are actually parts of Christ. That's another name for Jesus. So if you know Jesus, everybody in the room said they know Jesus, right? Everybody in the room says, I believe in Jesus, right? I didn't see anybody not raise their hand. So you're either lying or you're saying, I believe in Jesus. If you believe in Jesus, your body is actually in some way part of the body of Jesus Christ. You guys hear what I'm saying? In other words, you're part of His family and you're connected to Him. Now hear what it says next. Should a man take his body, which is part of Christ, and join it to a prostitute? Now check out what this is saying. Jesus, the Son of the living God, who made the heavens and the earth, out of His mouth He spoke the Son into existence. And He says, if you know me, if you say you believe in me, if you say you're my friend, then you and I are linked together. We're joined together. Everywhere you go, Rachel, Jesus goes. Every decision you make, Marcus, Jesus is right there. Everything you do, every Instagram picture you send, every video you watch, everything you do, if you love Jesus, He is right there with you, watching the same thing, doing the same thing. He's right there, connected to you. And the question is, can you drag Jesus into all of that? You guys hear what I'm saying? Can you drag Jesus into all of that junk? But you know what the deal is Jesus goes into that junk with us. You guys know that? You know that Jesus in His grace, when Chuck makes a bad decision, when Chuck thinks a bad thought, when Chuck is not being wise, Jesus is right there with me, and I'm dragging him right through it. And the question is that right? Can you do that? Can you really do that? Check out what it says next. Don't you realize that if a man joins himself to a prostitute, now he's taking a big example to talk about sex. He says, if a man joins himself to a prostitute, he becomes one body with her. You go, what do you mean by that, Chuck? It means you're not just physical. When you have sex with somebody else, the Bible says you become one. Somebody say one. Sex is not just physical. It's about one spirit, oneness. And when you have sex, there's an emotional oneness with who you have sex with. This is a big deal, guys. This is a real big deal. For the scriptures say the two will be united in one. And do you know what it's talking about? It's talking about Adam and Eve when they got married. When Adam and Eve got married, God said, two people, a man and a woman, will become one. And He says, but you know what that's really all about? That's to help you understand how when you love Jesus, you and Jesus are one. Check out what it says next. But the person who is joined to the Lord is one. So here's the problem. I'm joined to Jesus. I'm connected to Jesus. I'm one with Jesus. But when I have sex outside of marriage, when I violate, when I break God's gift of sex, I become one with somebody else. And God's going, what? You're one with me and you're one with another false god. It means, in other words, you're worshiping a different God, but you say you're one with me. You guys hearing what I'm saying? See, this is big stuff, guys. This is big stuff. Check out the next thing. Run. Somebody say run. Don't tiptoe. Have you ever done that before? Like tiptoeing? Don't walk slowly. I've seen some of you guys do that. Hey, Roger, come here. Okay? Don't walk slow. Don't tiptoe. It says this is such a big deal. Run from it. Turn your back on it. Leave it. You've got to run from sexual sin. No, hear me now. Somebody say no. No. No other sin so clearly affects the body as this one does. For sexual immorality, hear me now. For sexual immorality is a sin against your own body. It means like God gave you a gift and you're beating it in with a baseball bat. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like God gave you the gift of your body and you're breaking it yourself. You're hurting it yourself. You're offending it yourself with the way that you view and act with sex. Guys in the back, Jeremiah, bro, please hear this. With all of my heart, I want you to know, man. Because stuff going on here. You hear me, Big Ant? This stuff is big stuff. See, I'm watching lives in the room on a train wreck, and I'm saying the way you view sex is a big part of it. And I don't want you to be on that train wreck. But there are a lot of people in the room, myself included, hear me now. A lot of people in the room, we got baggage. So what do we do with that? We've made mistakes. We've been on the wreck. We've had the collision. Things have gotten messed up inside. So what do we do with all that? Well, check out what it says next. Don't you realize your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who lives in you? See, even when you blow it, even when you mess it up, even when you break it, the God of the universe has had an alien invasion and He lives in your heart. Do you guys hear what I'm saying? So you can either let baggage crush you, or you can go, the God of the universe lives inside of me. And He was given to you. You do not belong to yourself. Again, you belong to the Lord. For God bought you with a low price. Is that what it says? For God bought you with a very cheap price. Is that what it says? God bought you with a couple dollars out of His wallet. Is that what it says? No, it says He bought you with a high price. And I want you to know the high price was His life. The high price was His blood. The high price was His body. See, when you sin sexually, you're sinning against your own body. And God said, you know what, I'm going to take my body, my perfect body, my body that never made a mistake, my body that never did anything wrong, and I'm going to go to a cross, and I'm going to let you pop and break it. Break ribs, rip skin off the back, drive nails through my arm. I'm going to let my perfect body, even though you sinned against your own body, I'm going to go to the cross. I'm going to pay a high price so you don't have to carry your baggage everywhere you go. You guys know what I'm saying? So the cross invites you. The cross is an invitation. And the invitation says, you can drop your baggage and you can come to the cross. My buddy David's going to come up here in a second, and he's going to play on the piano. And here's the deal. David's going to come up here in a second. I'm going to pray. As David's playing, here's the deal. I want to invite you to drop your baggage. Does that make sense? I want to invite you to drop all of the emotional, spiritual things that have been tearing you up inside. I'm going to invite you to kneel down at the cross and say, hey, Jesus, here's my baggage. Here's the stuff that seems to be getting in the way of good decisions. Here's the stuff that seems to be dragging me down. God, you know what? If you went and paid such a high price for me, and if you actually live inside of me, then I want you to take my baggage. I want you to handle my baggage. How many of you guys would want God to do that? Anybody? Is there anybody in the room that would say, I would like God to take all of my baggage, all my failures, have God deal with it? So here's what we're going to do, man. For a couple minutes, man, with nobody talking. So we're going to hit the lights. nobody talking. Let's ask God to deal with our baggage at the cross. Can we do that? Why don't you have a moment of silence with God and ask Him to deal with your baggage? Ask Him